right, we're live. Oh, I didn't even realize we had already gone live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Well Dressed Brand TV show. I am your host, Toy Sweeney. Today, I am so excited because this is the perfect timing for this conversation. We're going to be talking to my exceptional guest, Diana Patton, who is the confidence expert. In the last couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about using your voice. We've been talking about confidence. I got straightened out last week about my definition about confidence. We are learning and thriving every day. Diana is a former civil rights attorney, founder of the Rise Advocate Academy, author of The Inspiration in My Shoes. She's a consultant. She's a speaker. She is brilliant. She's beautiful. She's an all-around badass. Diana, welcome into the show.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much.
Badass part.
Overall, but I mean, it's true. It is absolutely true. I'm so excited about this conversation because, as I was thinking about this morning, I was like, I'm so grateful that I get to do this show because it's like me having coaches in a box.
Yeah.
I get, and I get to ask questions and talk about my experiences, when I was incorporated and just even now as an entrepreneur. And you guys are just helping me and helping the entire Well Dressed Brand tribe. The feedback has been phenomenal. So thank you again for saying yes and being here today.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm
Yes.
loving your on. So Diana, you've helped women leaders overcome challenges to become confident advocates for themselves and in their communities and in the workplace. And I know that's like a triple threat that so many of us would love to be able to do. What are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in your personal life and in your career that made this leap into what you're doing now make complete sense for your brand?
I had to really love myself.
Mm.
I had to find a space of reconciliation with my story. And I had to really stop looking at my past as being the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And in
Mm.
fact, it is the very thing that has blessed me to do the things I do today. I have done surgery on my story and I have come out on the other side. And I am 100% renewed, revived, and realizing no one else has my story.
Yeah.
If I can really take all of the beautiful things that came out of that and use that in my workplace, not only that I can do that, I can help other people do that. And I can also help them understand how they can be not only impactful at work, but in their own home, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all transcends your work, your home, and as a mom, as a working mom, and as all the things. I realize how much your unconscious behavior can affect what's going on in your present day, causing lots of false evidence appearing real, fear.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so, all of that to say, that was the real shift for me.
I love that. When we're looking at, I was looking at your story about your past.
Mhm.
Do you mind sharing some of that a little bit so that we can kind of get a better handle around the things and the level that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. So, 2 months after Martin Luther King was killed, I was born in
Mm.
June of 1968 to a white father and a black mom. And so that in and of itself says, whoa. I mean, if you know history, you would know that it wasn't a very popular thing to be born in a mixed race family. But then also, too, on top of that, he was abusive,
Yeah.
right? I have 5 older sisters and 1 younger brother. And we had one bathroom that was operable upstairs, okay, with 6 girls. So that in and of itself is a story. I say, I learned about diversity. I learned about trauma, but I didn't even know that's what it was called when I was young. I learned how to to find my voice in this family of women and to understand that really doesn't matter what you do, people are not going to like everything you do. And growing up for me was really a space where I was trying to watch my older sisters, 5 of them, all of us in a 10-year span,
Wow.
But then also understanding what's my voice. And I was loud. I've always been loud because hello, when you in a family like that, you better be loud because you ain't gonna get no voice. And I've always been somewhat of a comedian. For me, it was like laughing to almost stop the crying. And then the comedic part of me grew. I've always been a little bit of a comedian. I was class clown of my high school. I'm still crazy. And I love that part. But I've learned how that was, as I've gotten through therapy and coaching, how that was a coping mechanism to
Yeah.
deal with some of the issues that we were growing up with. And my oldest sister was abused physically, sexually by my father. She ran
Mm.
away. And I remember vividly telling my mom, she was in the bathroom, she was reading a letter from my sister after she ran away. And I remember telling her, well, why don't we do something about this, mom? You don't say nothing like that to your mama, but my mom was like, sit down, but I just felt like I wanted to do something about it.
Yeah.
Why are we staying like this? And
Right.
I understood very young when my father tried to inappropriately touch me. I pushed my father away. And I literally, that was impulse.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that that was a big thing
Hmm.
until I was way later in my 30s,
Wow.
knowing a 14-year-old girl pushed her father away.
Hmm.
Uh, that's when I knew I'm an advocate. Like I've always been a lawyer. It took me getting a license to verify that, but then
Yeah.
also doing the therapy that I needed to do to start to undo and heal a lot of it, because all of that is what drove me to law school, to run track in college, to walk on to the track team, to be I've never had a problem finding a job. I've never had a problem being like seen, taking up
Mm.
space. I've always
Yeah.
taken up. I was at International Women's Day the other day, and they said, "Ladies, we have to learn how to take up space." I said, "I've been taking up space my entire life,
My
my
whole life.
whole life, and I'm 54 of that life now." But I've had to learn how to be quiet. I've had to learn how to listen
Yeah.
and not talk all the time, right? Because I'm a talker. I'm like, I also I'm a fighter fleer. So I
Yeah.
will fight you with my words, and then I will run away till you have something to say, right?
Right.
Like that's not going to help my marriage,
Right.
uh, or my kids, or my community, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so all of that to say that I've learned, I am getting a degree in Diana. I already
Mm.
other things, right? Getting a master's, getting my Juris Doctorate, all those things. I got to get a degree in me.
Yeah. That's
And
so
that's
good.
where the benefits come from.
One of the things that you talk about is, well, let me ask the questions this way. What did you learn about confidence
Mm,
from your mom, even
mm,
like when she was slipping the notes in your track shoes, but
yeah.
even with the story that you told, like I know somebody is wondering, how do you come from that situation? And you talked about getting the degree in Diana, but what did you learn through this from your mom? And then what parts of it were you able to use to boost your confidence?
Realizing nothing beats a failure but a try.
Mm,
Mom used to put in my track shoes and with the notes that she put in my shoes. But what I learned from my mom is I have to give my first time to God.
yeah.
I had to pray. And my mom worked full time. She had all these kids. She worked full time. But what I always heard my mom doing was getting up and reading her Bible and
Yeah.
praying and journaling before she went to work.
Hmm.
Before, and that was something that stuck with me. Like, why doesn't she just sleep in? Why doesn't she just? No, she knew that she had to have that to have a sense of self. And
Yeah.
so when my kids were little and I was working corporate, you see what happens behind the scenes of your life shows up in front of other people.
Mm. Yes, it
So
does.
you gotta close that identity gap. It when you close the identity gap, which I can't say is my word, it's from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who wrote the book um, How to Lose Your Mind and Gain a New One.
Mm,
Um, and he talks about the gap of identity. What's in the center of that is a bunch of shame, guilt,
yes.
unforgiveness, blame. So you've got to work on closing that by, really learning yourself,
Yeah.
praying, meditating, getting quiet, getting spiritually rooted,
Yes.
understanding what your soul needs. And when you do that, you'll become more confident because you're
Yes.
gonna you're gonna be less trying to gain the affirmation from other people.
Mm,
You're going to be gaining the affirmation from your real boss. For me, is God.
yeah. Amen.
I don't have earthly bosses. Okay.
Right.
And that boss is God, the Holy Spirit, which resides in me.
Yes.
I believe that when I get like clear with that, I can
Hmm.
show up and say things about my past. I can talk about that without this fear of judgment of myself or from other people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm trying to change people's lives and impact their lives. Showing you how smart I am and letting my ego lead it doesn't help anyone except for
Right.
me. Feel good and look in the mirror. Ooh, look at me. But it doesn't help anyone else, right?
Yeah.
And most of us are being led by our egos and not the spirit.
Yeah. That's very true. It's funny that you said that because I'm often asked when I meet someone new and I mention, I get up at 4 a.m., somewhere between 4 and 4:30 every morning. And
Yeah.
they're like, why?
Yeah.
Why
Why
do
do
you
you
do
do
that?
that, Lord?
Like, are you not? And I was like, I just need that time. Like, before my
Mm,
husband gets
so
up,
good.
before my son gets up, I need that time to spend in my Bible. I need that time to pray. I need that time to review the goals and the things that I've put in place that reminds me,
Yes.
as you were saying, not just who I am, but whose I am.
Yes.
And I have lived through everything that you just said, that when I'm anchored in whose I am, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to be thrown off and have,
Yes.
a day where I am not, where I want to shrink back and not
Mhm.
claim the space. To shout out to my friend Eliza Van Court and her book, A Woman's Guide to Claiming Space. You
Mm,
know,
awesome.
um,
Write that down.
Oh, it is incredible, but she talks about, sticking your flag in the sand and being able to, to take up space. And
Mhm.
so, so I just wanted to echo that and high five you on that, because that's
Good.
definitely something that I know is true, that I've lived out. And your I want to get to the quiz in a little bit. I want to talk about the Speak Up and Rise quiz, only to say that I did take it, and through the
Yes.
questioning that you've put together through the quiz, I could see that you had lived out the things that you just talked about. Just
Yes.
by the way that the questions were formed, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I understand where these questions are coming from. Because if you've done the work and you've gone through therapy, you're like, oh, I know exactly. And I was like, man, Diana is really, really walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah.
And the way that you're able to help women, I was able to see your vision so clear in what
Mm.
you're accomplishing. So
Oh, beautiful. Thank
hats
you.
off to you for that.
Good job on the quiz.
Do you want to know what my score was? What did you just say?
No, I know what your score is. You did a
Oh,
great job.
okay. Because I was like, you probably got my score.
I
Um,
did. It's good.
and so it was brilliant. And so I was like, wow, this is fantastic. So
Mm.
why civil rights when you
Mm.
decided I'm going to law school? What was it about civil rights that you were like, that's my jam?
I really kind of stumbled upon it, but I always known that once I really realized that I was for the people, right? I was really, what, you heard me say, but why do we have to do this, Mom? Why can't we do this? I also know when my grandmama told me that, she's from the South, she's from Macon, Georgia, and she told me with a mouth like that, you would have got lynched back in the day. But
Wow.
was very serious about that because she
Mm-hmm.
knew. I mean, she's from Macon, Georgia. My grandmother was born in 1908. So
Wow.
um, she knows that my mouth would have gotten that back in the day. But I really know that I Martin Luther King and his message resonates with me for so many reasons, and not only just because I was born in the month he was killed, but also that I've known that, if not, us at the time to be able to do this work, who's going to do the work? All right.
Yeah.
But I was raised with a civil rights grandmother, right? She started the NAACP. She started Bethel Baptist Church. My mom then became the NAACP president. I have aunts
Wow.
and uncles who are the first and in a lot of different areas. And I've realized it doesn't really take a degree to
Mm.
be a person of that's changing the fabric of communities in the area of justice, in the area of fairness and equity. And so, being the type of personality that I am, I thought, what better place for me to land than in civil rights? And
Yeah.
that's helping people. But the root of all of that is I knew I needed to get healed because
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, what he stood for peaceful resistance. And a lot of
Mm.
people, he wasn't very popular, especially among Black people, to do that. And
Yeah.
he was taught, from what some folks, your listeners, to know, is that Thich Nhat Hanh was a Vietnamese monk
Mm.
who came to Martin Luther King to talk to him about the Vietnam War. And as a result of that, they became friends. So Martin Luther King learned meditation and those kinds of things from Thich Nhat Hanh, and the peaceful resistance movement was born. And I didn't know all that, but there was that. I believe it's that kind of hook that really got me, because we're not going to get anything if we're just wanting to be heard, and we're
Mm.
not really wanting to sit down and listen and be a force for good. And good trouble means I'm willing to put my personality, my reputation, my comfort, all of that to the side for the ability for people to move forward. And that is a lost art in today's society.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us aren't willing to heal, one, to look at ourselves, to look at our story, to not allow people's opinions to shrink us down, but they're also not willing to be peaceful and listen and to sit down and have dialogue with people who you disagree with.
Yes.
Huge. That's all of everything I stand for. So
Yeah.
of course, to me, civil rights. And in fact, in my book, This Yogi's Journey, if you would look up the other book that I wrote, the first day of the book, which journals, it takes a daily 50, it was my 50th birthday present to myself. And on my birth, I actually have, and your viewers can't see it, but is a picture of Martin Luther King, me standing in front of a photo of Martin Luther King doing my yoga pose. And that's because I just resonate with it so deeply.
Yeah. That's incredible. I
Mhm.
love that. Wow, my mind is like, I'm like, no, bring it back to the questions. There was like five things I needed to say about that.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. What are some essential mindset tools to understand your value and be recognized for it in an organization? We're just
Mm.
going to
Well,
shift a little bit.
first of all, you need to know your values,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people have not sat down. No one's asked them, well, what is your mission and what is your vision and what are your values? Every organization has, every good organization has a mission statement, values
Hmm.
that are on the wall, and and they have their vision. So a lot of people have not sat down and done that. And give reference to books that I love, and Dare to Lead by Brene Brown does a great job of helping people recognize their values.
Yeah.
And really pushes people to identify two values. And for me, I feel once you know your values, you then have to see, okay, what behaviors reflect those values on a daily basis. When you see the behavior reflecting the values every single day in your work, you come up and you show up more confidently and more boldly, because then you don't have that identity gap, right? You won't be showing up like with this false identity. And people really get this, like, am I, what do they call that when you're trying to be something that you're not? I can't remember the name of it.
Like
But
imposter syndrome.
that that's the reason why I don't even know it, because it's not me.
Right.
Because that's why I don't remember it, because that don't apply to me. I ain't got no imposter syndrome. I'm not trying to be, I'm not. So people get that because they don't know themselves. I cannot express enough how much. Do you know your triggers? I always say, do you know what the F is going on inside of you? The F is,
Right.
are you freezing, fawning, people pleasing, which is fawning, fleeing, or fighting? I
Yeah.
told you I'm a fighter fleer. So I have to work on part of myself, but I know my triggers. I
Yeah.
know say things. I know how people, I just know that. And so you have to know that to really
Yeah.
show up in your organization very
Yeah.
boldly and confidently.
Yeah. And I love that because I think that once you have done the work to know what your triggers are, then in my experience, it helps you to not take things so personally.
Mm. Well, that's my other book that I love, The Four Agreements. By
Yes, we are a household of the four agreements.
yeah, be impeccable with your words. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. Now, he has a fifth one, but I will tell you, and it's regarding their values, right? But I don't always do that. Because I like to say I'm a lot like Paul from the Bible. I don't know why I do the things I don't want to do. The
Right.
things I the things I want to do, I don't do. The things I
Yeah.
don't want, I do. So I want people to understand there's two words that you have to really begin to adopt and make it a part of who you are. One is that you need to give grace to
Yes.
yourself and to others, because we are all human, and humility needs to sit at the root of who you are.
Yes. It's good.
Yeah,
And so oftentimes it doesn't.
that's right.
It doesn't. Okay, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. I'm going to try to do this without tech issues in Jesus'
Yes,
name.
you got it.
A quick word from our sponsors. The Well Dressed Brand TV show is sponsored by Slice Product. They are ceramic knives and blades, like for unpacking boxes and opening packages. The unique design makes it so that the blade will cut everything except for you.
Oh,
There we go. Yes, they are
wow.
they are super fantastic.
Wow.
And my son, who's 13, can use them without, me fear 13-year-olds. You've been there. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Without him slicing his finger off. So we are a
that's
house that loves the Slice brand. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you a little bit about your personal brand. So
yes.
I want to. So we have been doing, as you know, the color of the month on the Well Dressed Brand TV show. So once a month.
I love.
Thank you so much. So the first of every month, we introduce a new color, and we go take a deeper dive into that color each month. Where I do a live every Tuesday at 1 o'clock on Instagram. So this month, we're talking about the
Nice.
color black. Your brand color is this problem at work, and I should have said something, but I didn't. And yes, sometimes I'm undervalued, but that's okay. All of that. Why do we need to speak up and rise? And then we'll go into some elements of that.
According to research, we have increased the amount of inequity for women in the workplace by 36. It used
Mm,
to be 100. We are at 83 cents for the dollar for white women to men. We are at 63 cents for the dollar to Black women to white men. We are completely responsible for shifting the equity gap. If not you, who?
right.
You are the person, not another law, which laws are helpful. I mean, hello, I know they are. In fact, we just recently had a law that was passed by Biden that allowed women to have more rights with pregnancy. Because we all know let's stop acting like we don't need some time to after we've had a baby.
Right.
You do, and you need to tell your employer about that. But most of us are fearful of saying things because they don't want to appear emotional. We don't want to appear weak. We don't want to appear angry. We don't want
Yeah.
to appear all the stereotypes fill them in. And as the inequity continues. We were the ones who were mostly impacted after the pandemic
Yeah.
because, yes, we were the ones who went
Mhm.
home. We did our jobs. We fed our kids. We made certain that they were taught while we were working. And we did all that. And some of us
Yeah.
had to leave our jobs. According to the Women in the Workplace study done by Lean In and McKinsey,
Yes.
women are leading their organizations faster than they ever left them before. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna take it. Mm-mm. No,
No,
we're not
not
gonna
gonna
take
take
it
it.
because we're not gonna take it anymore, and we shouldn't.
Right.
Because, but who's responsible for making certain that? Okay,
Yeah.
I believe that's where the Speak Up and Rise quiz is going to help you identify the things that are happening behind the scenes that are disallowing you to show up in front of other people and to speak
Mhm.
with authority and with a sense of ease,
Yeah.
because that's an art form that does not come instantly. That is something you have to train at getting better at. Say it, but then when we walk away, we say things and like, oh my gosh, I hope that they don't think that I'm, and then we start to give ourselves a mini, anxiety. And we
Yeah.
need to learn how to do it fluently. The Speak Up and Rise just gives you the basics, that assessment for themselves, right?
Yeah. I'm definitely back into transition right now with,
Yeah,
what it that I'm truly 6 years into this business. What do you really want to say? What do you want to be doing? How can I, in a refreshing way, continue to take up space,
yeah,
and stand up and rise and be my own advocate? And what does that look like as an entrepreneur?
yeah,
Leaving
exactly.
the corporate world. I worked for someone longer than I've worked for myself.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we really don't understand, again, getting back to brand is, well, who are you serving?
Mm-hmm.
Client. What are you, and really kind of doing the data analytics that has to go into that client. Who are you? How you speak to them? So, yeah, that will help determine the dollar, right? Because if you're trying to help women speak up and you're charging them a lot of money and they don't have, you do the demographics on them, they don't have that capacity to be able to do that, then you might alter your prices, right? Or you might alter your ideal client. So,
Right.
but all of those things, that's the whole mathematical side of things, which really requires more of quantifiable data. But then, of course, what we all have to do is we have to overlay the authority that we bring, and whether
Yeah.
that's overt or internal authority, and overlay that to what the science and the math says about who can pay for what, and then you just go from there and figure it out. But it
Yeah.
does take a little bit of a process, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Can you talk to us about the All Rise Live Global Summit, which I'm so excited about?
This is gonna be so much
It's gonna be
fun. Okay,
lit.
it's gonna be lit. And when I say lit, we're gonna be like, okay. It's June when, and I'm not lying about that. It's June 15th through the 17th. And here's the deal. The tickets go on sale April 1st. People need to go to allriselive.com, put your name down as the first to know. Now, why? Because you'll get priority. We are
Mm,
undoubtedly that this is going to sell out.
yeah.
And I've been to conferences. When I tell you I've been through a lot of conferences over the years in every city you can think of in America. We got Arizona, we got Phoenix, we got LA, we have New York, we have Atlanta, Orlando. I've been to so many different conferences, and I am taking all of those experiences and putting them into a conference I know from me that I would spend money for and I would go to.
Yeah.
And
It's okay with you. Um, you have an incredible body.
oh, thank you. It's a work in
It's
progress.
like 50 who, where, and what. Okay. Who said that? I don't know why Diana's spewing these curse words talking about she's in her 50s because I don't believe you.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it is
but yeah.
definitely a thing. Yeah, that's something that I've said I made a promise to myself that I want to be able to use my joints, and I don't want to buy anyone's joints. I know there's a cannabis industry, but I'm not trying to buy y'all's joints. I want to keep my knees, my shoulders, and my toes, and all the things as long as I can. I come from a
Yeah.
family where my mom and both my mom and grandma is like knee replacements.
Yeah.
My grandmother didn't have a knee replacement; she was just paralyzed. She couldn't walk now.
Wow.
And so I like to nourish myself from the inside out.
Yeah.
And then I'm still doing CrossFit competitions, but I love yoga. So I'm kind of a yogi slash CrossFitter. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you had on this orange sweatshirt that was like asymmetrical but cropped and
Yes.
very dramatic. It was fabulous. And I
Yes.
was like, oh, I need that sweatshirt. And then I was watching your Instagram and then you turned around and I was like, look at those abs. Well, I let me put these Oreos down and go to the gym.
I have to give a shout out to Mueller. Mueller, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but that's her sweatshirt. She's a black woman out of New York City, and she's amazing. And that's your friend. Is that your friend?
I don't
The
know.
one?
Who is
Oh, okay. I
maybe
thought it
not.
was
Because I would
the
have
one.
that sweatshirt if she was my friend.
Oh,
So I'm
that's
gonna
so.
need that link because I need that sweatshirt in my life, like ASAP.
Oh no, I know someone else. You should have her on your show too. My friend Micah Rosales. She's
Yes.
from Panama. She needs to be on your show, but
All
that's her.
right.
Yeah.
Send it over. We will make it happen.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for pouring into us and helping us to figure out how we can stand up and rise. I'm excited that you've given us the tools. We can take the Speak Up and Rise, quiz, which I have the link for you guys in the bio. There's other programs about how we can put our passions into action. There's the Rise Advocate Academy. Um,
Mhm.
Go ahead and lean into all that so that you can be clear on how to choose your brand colors.
Yes.
And then if you want to really make a difference, maybe before you know it, we'll be halfway through